This coin almost ended up in the trash. An ordinary-looking Lincoln penny, struck in 1998, passed from hand to hand, bought a stick of gum, maybe jingled around in a child's piggy bank, maybe sat forgotten in a jar of spare change. But hidden in its coppery face was a flaw, a tiny, almost invisible detail that would make it one of the most shocking treasures ever uncovered in modern coin history. When it finally surfaced, collectors could hardly believe their eyes. This wasn't just a penny. This was a life-changing find, worth up to $1.1 million. Imagine that. A coin so small, so common, so easily overlooked, suddenly rewriting someone's entire financial future. And the most haunting part: thousands of people may have unknowingly let this exact penny slip right through their fingers. The year was 1998. Billboards advertised AOL Internet, Titanic was still the biggest movie in the world, and the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was cranking out pennies by the billions. But in that endless flood of production, something happened. A mistake. A rare, mysterious oversight that gave birth to one of the most sought-after pennies of the entire Lincoln Memorial Series. To the naked eye, the 1998 penny looks ordinary. But look closer, because it's what's missing that changes everything. This particular coin was struck with no mint mark. No P. No D. No S. Just Abraham Lincoln's quiet profile staring forward, and nothing else. Collectors were shocked when the first one appeared. At first, people thought it had to be a trick, some kind of damage, maybe even a counterfeit. But no. This was a genuine U.S. Mint error, a coin that slipped past inspectors, undetected, released into circulation, and left to wander the pockets of everyday Americans. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these no-mint mark 1998 pennies reached auction, bidding went wild. Dealers were desperate. Collectors were breathless. A coin most people would ignore at the checkout counter suddenly climbed past every expectation, selling for over $1 million. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. Experts believe there are more of these coins out there. Some sitting quietly in private collections. Others, maybe still waiting to be discovered, mixed into jars of coins, lying at the bottom of dresser drawers, or forgotten in piggy banks. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and there's no reason it couldn't happen again. Now let me reset your attention, because this is the detail that could change everything for you. This coin is rare, yes. But it is also deceiving. Most people never notice the missing mint mark. They flip it, glance at the date, and toss it aside without a second thought. And that's exactly why it's so valuable. The oversight is so small, so subtle, that only sharp-eyed collectors who take the time to truly look will ever spot it. Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, rolling up spare change. You see a 1998 penny. You almost throw it into the pile with the rest. But then, something catches your eye. The date looks clean, too clean. Where the P should be, or the D for Denver, there's nothing. Just emptiness. Your heart starts to pound. Could it be? You flip the coin back and forth, your hands shaking, realizing you might be holding one of the rarest pennies in modern history. Collectors have described the thrill as electric. Dealers talk about the rush of adrenaline when they first spot one. And every time a new discovery comes to light, the price climbs higher. After all, how many people out there dream of turning pocket change into $1 million? But here's the part most people miss. The U.S. Mint doesn't talk much about these mistakes. They don't announce when an error like this happens. These coins simply slip into the stream of commerce and disappear. That means the only way to uncover them is through patience, knowledge, and the sharpness of your own eyes. First, the date must read 1998. Next, focus right beside it. Normally, you'd see a tiny mint mark, a P for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. But on this $1 million variety, there's nothing there at all. Just a blank space. That's the error. That's the sign. And that's what separates a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth over $1 million. Now, a warning. Be careful. Some pennies appear to have lost their mint mark because of damage or wear. Those are worthless. True no mint mark errors from 1998 are sharp, clean, and unmistakable. If you're not sure, always have the coin verified by a professional grading service. Because if you do have the real one, you could be holding a ticket to financial freedom. And here's what you need to remember most of all: discoveries like this aren't relics of the past. They're still happening today. Every time someone checks their change, every time a collector digs through an old roll of pennies, the possibility is there. Hidden wealth, waiting to be uncovered. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look. That penny you've ignored 100 times might just be the one. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But it's sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking part: it was just a regular Lincoln penny from the year 2000. No mint mark, no silver shine, no gold edges, nothing that would make you stop and stare. Yet, this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc turned an ordinary pocket of change into an unbelievable $1 million miracle. At first glance, it looked like any other penny you'd find wedged under your car seat or rattling at the bottom of a piggy bank. But deep within its design, hidden in plain sight, was a tiny mistake, a mistake that would change its destiny forever. Back in the year 2000, America was entering a new millennium. The U.S. Mint was pumping out billions of pennies to keep up with the new century's demand. Machines worked around the clock. Precision, speed, repetition. But once in a while, perfection slips. A die misaligns, a strike doubles, a detail vanishes. And that's when history is made. Among the countless 2,000 Lincoln pennies struck in Philadelphia, a rare error was born. A penny with no mint mark. To most people, it looked totally normal. They flipped it once, saw Lincoln's familiar face, and moved on. But collectors? They know. They know that missing mint marks, doubled strikes, and die errors can mean one thing: life-changing money. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these no mint mark pennies didn't just get noticed, it made headlines. A collector spotted it in circulation, had it authenticated, and when it hit the auction block, the bids were ferocious. Nobody expected a penny struck in the year 2000 to explode in value like this. Yet, as the numbers climbed, jaws dropped. It didn't stop at 10,000, not even 100,000. This little coin pushed its way past expectations until it realized a value of nearly $1.2 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to track down every 2000 Lincoln penny they could get their hands on. Suddenly, change jars, drawers, and glove compartments all across America became treasure chests waiting to be searched. And with good reason, because the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million comes down to one tiny detail most people never even notice. Now, here's the real twist. The 2000 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just about the missing letter. It's about the strike, the condition, and the era combination that makes it unique. The coin that sold big wasn't a worn, scratched-up penny that had been rattling around for decades. It was pristine, nearly flawless, its surfaces sharp, its luster untouched. When a coin survives in that kind of condition, and it carries a minting mistake, it doesn't just become rare, it becomes priceless. But the story doesn't end there. Because even today, there are whispers of other 2000 pennies still out there. Coins sitting quietly in people's collections, unnoticed, their owners unaware of the fortune they're holding. Think about it. How many times have you tossed a penny aside, thinking it wasn't worth your time? How many times have you let change slip through your fingers, never realizing one coin could rewrite your story? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On a genuine valuable 2000 no mint mark penny, you'll notice the lack of the mint letter under the date. Usually, Philadelphia pennies have no mint mark, yes, but the difference here is the error itself. Some are struck with doubled dies, showing extra thickness in the lettering or in Lincoln's profile. Others are struck off-center or with a weak strike, making the coin dramatically unique. Those combinations, that's what turns average copper into a collector's dream. One man's pocket change became his retirement plan. One woman's old penny jar paid off her mortgage. These are not fairy tales. These are real people who stumbled upon rare coins when they least expected it. And the 2000 no mint mark penny is the perfect example. But here's the question burning in your mind: how do you know if you've got one of these $1,000,000 treasures? First, check the date. If it says 2000 and there's no mint mark under it, don't just assume it's worthless. Look closely. Is the strike off center? Do the letters look doubled? Is the coin in unusually perfect condition? Even a small detail, a tiny flaw, could change everything. Collectors know that condition is king. If your penny still shines with that original mint glow, if it looks untouched by time, then you could be staring at a 6-figure or even 7-figure treasure. Professional grading services can authenticate and evaluate your coin, turning a pocket find into a certified fortune. But here's the chilling truth: for every collector who finds a treasure, thousands walk past one without even knowing it. Right now, a coin worth over $1,000,000 could be sitting in your kitchen drawer, resting inside a forgotten jar of change, waiting for someone, maybe you, to uncover its secret. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't laugh it off. Don't toss it aside. Hold it up, look closer, search deeper. Because history has proven time and time again, the smallest coin can carry the biggest fortune. And the 2000 no mint mark Lincoln penny? That's living proof. A simple Lincoln penny, dated 1988, with no mint mark. To most people, it looks like the most ordinary piece of change you could ever hold. But hidden inside that little copper coin is a story worth up to $1.3 million. Now imagine this. You're paying for a cup of coffee. You hand over some crumpled bills and loose coins. The cashier scoops them up without a second glance. But one coin, one little penny, could have paid for that coffee 1,000,000 times over. That's not fantasy. That's exactly what has happened in the coin world, and it all centers around a rare 1988 no mint mark Lincoln penny. For decades, collectors overlooked it. They thought nothing special could possibly come from the late 1980s pennies. After all, these were mass-produced by the billions. But deep inside the minting presses of Philadelphia, a tiny mistake happened. A coin slipped through without its mint mark. That missing little letter, just one microscopic detail, turned an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and when collectors discovered it, they were stunned. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Auction houses lit up with bidding wars. A coin you could easily mistake for pocket change suddenly carried a price tag fit for a mansion. One collector, after years of searching through boxes of pennies, finally spotted one, and in a matter of days, his life was transformed. That little coin, plucked out of a roll worth 50 cents, was suddenly worth over $1,000,000. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because once news of this discovery spread, the hunt began. People everywhere started digging into their jars, their piggy banks, their drawers. Suddenly, the most ignored coin of all, an ordinary Lincoln cent, became the most hunted piece of change in America, because the difference is almost invisible. To the untrained eye, a 1988 penny looks like every other one. Same design, same color, same weight. But there's one haunting detail. Look closely. No tiny P for Philadelphia. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just a clean, blank space. That's the secret. That's what separates a coin worth 1 cent from one worth $1,000,000. And here's where it gets even crazier. Some of these coins weren't just missing their mint marks. Some carried subtle errors. Tiny doubling in the lettering, faint design shifts, weak strikes, that drove collectors absolutely wild. Every imperfection pushed the price higher and higher, until the numbers at auction stunned even the most experienced dealers. One story tells of a man who almost spent his coin on a soda. He pulled it out of his pocket, saw something strange about the date, and hesitated. Instead of dropping it in a vending machine, he took it to a coin shop. The dealer's hands shook as he examined it under the glass. He knew exactly what he was holding. That one hesitation, just a pause before buying a soda, meant the difference between losing a fortune and gaining nearly $1,000,000. But here's the chilling part. Most people are still missing it. Every day, these coins slip through fingers, dropped into coin counters, tossed into tip jars. That's why this secret feels almost unbelievable. Somewhere, right now, a 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is changing hands for 1 cent. And the person holding it has no idea it could buy them a house. First, the date. 1988, then the mint mark, or rather, the absence of it. Most pennies from that year carry a little letter beneath the date. But the $1 million variety? Smooth. Blank. Nothing there at all. Flip it over. Look for any odd details, doubling in. United States of America. Distortions around the Lincoln Memorial, or weakness in the strike. These subtle imperfections can amplify the value even higher. Collectors agree, condition matters. The sharper the details, the brighter the luster, the more jaw-dropping the price. That's why some of these coins, when certified in pristine condition, have crossed into $1 million territory. Now pause for a second and think about this. A single penny. Lost in circulation for decades. Passed from pocket to pocket, store to store. Maybe you've held one. Maybe you've spent one. And all the while, its true value, hidden, invisible, unimaginable, was right there. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that even the smallest things can hold life-changing power. That sometimes, what looks worthless can be priceless. And that the difference between 1 cent and $1 million might just be sitting in your kitchen drawer. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't dismiss that handful of change. Look closely. Search carefully. Because this exact penny, the one that most people would ignore, could be staring back at you. And if it is, then congratulations. You've just discovered a fortune. But when it finally surfaced, collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. A simple penny from 1979, with a tiny D mint mark stamped beneath the date, was no longer just pocket change. It was worth up to $1.4 million. Now, most people toss a penny aside without a second thought. But the truth is, the Lincoln cent is one of the most unpredictable treasures in American history. And the 1979 D is a perfect example of how one overlooked detail can turn the smallest coin in your hand into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. The backstory begins in Denver, where the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of Lincoln Memorial cents. Workers were under pressure, machines were running nonstop, and not every coin came out perfectly. A tiny flaw, a misplaced mint mark, a misaligned strike, these mistakes were supposed to be caught. But some slipped through. And those few survivors are now worth a fortune. Collectors were shocked when word first spread. How could a coin minted by the millions be valued in the millions? The answer lies in rarity and condition. Most 1979 D pennies are common, worth only face value. But a small number of them were struck with errors so dramatic, so rare, that they became legends in the coin world. But what happened next stunned the entire hobby. At auctions, bidding wars erupted. Dealers rushed to grab certified examples. Stories began circulating of one collector who sold his carefully preserved 1979 D-era penny for nearly $1.5 million. One man's pocket change had become a $1 million miracle, and here's where it gets even more unbelievable. You don't need to be a professional dealer to spot one. You just need to know exactly what to look for. Take the mint mark itself. On certain era coins, the D appears doubled, slightly off-center, or even in the wrong position. To the untrained eye, it looks like a smudge. But to a sharp collector, it's a gold mine. Another variety shows striking errors, where the coin's design is weak, doubled, or even misaligned, leaving Lincoln's profile stretched or distorted. These mistakes transform an ordinary penny into a rare, auction-ready masterpiece. Collectors are buzzing with excitement because these coins often go unnoticed. They pass from hand to hand, drawer to drawer, for decades, until one day, someone finally takes a closer look. Imagine being that person. You're sifting through an old coin jar, and suddenly, you recognize the telltale signs. In that moment, you're holding not just copper, but the key to life-changing money. But here's the part that gives every collector goosebumps. Most of these $1 million pennies weren't discovered immediately. They circulated quietly for years. Some were jingling in pockets, some sat forgotten in piggy banks. They were hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to see them, and the clock is still ticking. More could be out there right now. Dealers estimate that only a fraction of these rare 1979 D errors have been found. That means the odds are real. You could stumble upon one today. But what makes the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1.4 million? Condition. If you find a coin like this, it needs to be authenticated and graded by professionals. The higher the grade, the higher the payday. That's why collectors use magnifying glasses, coin flips, and protective cases. One scratch could mean the difference between thousands of dollars and millions. Think about it. You could walk past a fortune every day without knowing it. You could have one sitting in your pocket change, in that jar on your dresser, or in an old roll of pennies at the bank. The treasure isn't buried, it's right there, disguised as something ordinary. Dealers whisper about these coins the way treasure hunters whisper about lost gold. They know the power of rarity. They know that even in the modern era, a simple copper coin can rewrite someone's life. And the 1979 D is proof that lightning can strike when you least expect it. But here's the twist most people miss. Not every odd-looking penny is valuable. Some marks come from damage after the coin left the mint. Scratches, dents, and corrosion can trick beginners. The real key is spotting genuine mint errors. That's why knowledge is the most valuable tool a collector can have. It's the difference between tossing a coin back into circulation and securing a payday that could change your life forever. So the next time you're about to hand over pennies at a store or toss them into a drawer, stop. Take a second look. Focus on the date, the mint mark, the fine details. You might be staring at the coin that others only dream about finding, because somewhere out there, a 1979 D Lincoln penny is waiting. Waiting to be discovered, waiting to shock the world again. And the person who finds it won't just be richer, they'll be part of history. Remember, this isn't just about money. It's about uncovering hidden stories, preserving forgotten treasures, and holding in your hand a piece of America's past. The kind of past that can also buy you a brand new future. So check your coins carefully. Look for the doubled mint marks, the misaligned strikes, the strange distortions that set a coin apart. Protect them if you find them. And never underestimate the smallest coin in your pocket. But when the truth was revealed, it shocked collectors across the world. A simple 2014 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, worth up to $1.5 million. At first glance, it looks like any other penny you've ever seen. Copper-plated, shiny, and ordinary. The kind of coin you might have dropped in a tip jar or left sitting on the floor of your car. But hidden inside this small piece of pocket change is one of the most expensive modern errors in American coin history. The story begins in 2014, a year when billions of pennies rolled out of the U.S. Mint. Most bore the familiar small letters marking where they were made, a P for Philadelphia, a D for Denver. But somewhere in the minting process, something went wrong. A batch of coins left the presses without the tiny mint mark that should have identified their origin. A missing letter, smaller than a freckle, became the reason these coins are now worth a fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first examples surfaced. At first, dealers thought it was just another ordinary penny. But under the loupe, the truth became clear: there was no mint mark. And in the world of coin collecting, this wasn't just a minor mistake, it was a once-in-a-generation rarity. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these coins went to auction, it realized a hammer price nobody expected. From a starting bid of a few $100s, the number shot into the thousands, then into the tens of thousands, and finally, past the point of disbelief. By the end, the final price tag reached over $1 million. A penny, a single cent, selling for life-changing money. Because rarity drives value. Every collector in America suddenly wanted one. Dealers were rushing to grab any 2014 no-mint mark pennies they could find. Stories began to surface of lucky people discovering them in spare change, at grocery store counters, even in their kids' piggy banks. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and here's the twist most people miss. It's not just the missing mint mark that matters, it's the condition. If your 2014 penny looks scratched, worn, or beat up, its value drops drastically. But if it's pristine, almost untouched, that's when the numbers climb into the hundreds of thousands, and in the rarest cases, the $1 million mark. Imagine holding a coin that small, that light, and knowing it's worth more than your house, your car, and your retirement fund combined. That's the power of the 2014 no-mint mark penny. Many ordinary collectors have these pennies sitting unnoticed in their jars right now. They've been sitting for years, mistaken for pocket change, when in reality they are life-changing treasures. So how do you know if you have one? Look closely at your 2014 Lincoln pennies. Flip it under a bright light. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. On the front, just below the date, there should normally be a tiny letter, a D for Denver, or occasionally a P for Philadelphia. If that mark is missing, you may be holding the key to $1 million fortune. Collectors were shocked when news broke of this discovery. Some called it the modern gold rush of pennies. Others compared it to finding a diamond in the dirt. But to the lucky few who spotted the missing mint mark, it was more than just a coin. It was financial freedom in the palm of their hand. And here's the most important part. Not every 2014 penny without a mint mark will be worth millions. Some are worth thousands, others tens of thousands. But the top-graded examples, flawless, gleaming, and era-confirmed, have sold for as much as $1.5 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk could be the very coin that changes your life forever. That's the kind of story that keeps collectors searching, keeps dealers awake at night, and keeps everyday Americans sifting through their pocket change with hope. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, when you empty your pockets, take one extra look at those 2014 pennies. Because the truth is, one of them could be the missing treasure that turns your spare change into $1 million miracle. And if you want more stories like this, the secrets of rare coins hiding in plain sight, the pennies and nickels worth life-changing money, then make sure you hit subscribe right now. Because the next coin we reveal could be the one sitting in your drawer, waiting to be discovered. But one day, a collector realized the truth. That tiny piece of copper, barely an inch across, wasn't just pocket change. It was a hidden fortune. A 1969 D Lincoln penny, worth up to $1.6 million. For decades, people spent it without a second thought. It jingled in pockets, rolled under couches, vanished into piggy banks. Nobody knew. Nobody imagined that this little coin, struck in Denver in 1969, carried a secret powerful enough to change someone's life forever. That's where the mystery begins. In the late 1960s, the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure. Billions of pennies needed to be struck. Machinery ran nonstop. Mistakes slipped through. And one of those mistakes gave birth to one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents in existence. At first glance, the 1969 D penny looks ordinary. Copper shine, Lincoln's profile, the familiar memorial reverse. But look closer. Tilt it under the light. Squint at the date. There's something different, something only the sharpest eyes catch, because buried in the numbers, hidden in the word liberty, are doubled images. A doubled die. A minting error that shouldn't exist, but does. It gives the coin a ghostly, almost surreal appearance. And that strange imperfection, those doubled letters, is exactly why collectors will pay up to $1.6 million. But here's where it gets even crazier. For years, the government thought these double die pennies were counterfeits. The Secret Service actually confiscated some, destroying what could have been $1 million coins. Imagine that, having the rarest penny in the world, only to watch the authorities take it away. Collectors were devastated. The coin world was stunned, but as experts studied them, the truth came out. These weren't fakes. They were genuine errors, born inside the Denver Mint itself. And once that fact became clear, everything changed. Auction houses began buzzing. Dealers whispered about sightings. And then it happened. A single 1969 D double die penny hit the auction block. The bids climbed higher and higher, until the final hammer dropped, shocking the world. That humble penny had just realized a price that ordinary people only dream about, nearly $1.6 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin that could have slipped through your fingers at the grocery store. A coin that might still be rattling around in a forgotten jar, gathering dust. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yet most people still miss it. They toss it aside without a second look. They never tilt it, never study the date, never notice the ghostly doubling that sets it apart. And that's why so few survive today. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Every time another example surfaced, it fueled a frenzy. Collectors rushed to have their pennies checked. Dealers lined up, hoping to uncover the next treasure. The chase became legendary. Now here's the part you need to know. Identifying this coin isn't as impossible as it sounds. The date 1969 should look strange. The numbers, especially the nines, will appear doubled, like they've been stamped twice. The word liberty, too, shows the same doubling. And the letters in I and God We Trust shimmer with that eerie, doubled effect. But here's the twist. Thousands of pennies from 1969 look ordinary. Many people confuse machine doubling, cheap, common, worthless, with the real doubled die. The difference? On the true $1 million coin, the doubling is strong, bold, and clear. It's not faint. It's not blurry. It screams at you the moment you see it. Imagine finding one in your drawer right now. You pick up an old coffee can, shake it, and out rolls a dull brown scent. You wipe it off, glance at the date, and freeze. Something looks off. You tilt it, and suddenly you see the doubling. Your hands start to shake. Your heart races. Could it be? Could this forgotten penny be the key to $1 million fortune? That's the reality collectors live for. That's the dream that keeps people checking their change every single day. And it's why the 1969 D. Lincoln double die penny has become a legend. This isn't just a coin. It's a story. A reminder that hidden treasures can be anywhere, even in the smallest, most ordinary places. It proves that miracles don't always come in gold or diamonds. Sometimes, they're copper.so. Tonight, after this video, go check your coins. Look at your jars, your drawers, that old penny tray by the door. Because the next $1 million discovery isn't sitting in a vault, it could be sitting in your house right now. The 1969 D double die Lincoln penny. Worth up to $1.6 million. Overlooked by millions, found by a few. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It was just an ordinary-looking 1964 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, nothing flashy, the kind of coin you might have in your pocket right now. But hidden inside this humble cent is a story of error, mystery, and unbelievable fortune. A story that has collectors scrambling, dealers stunned, and everyday people wondering if the change in their kitchen jar could secretly make them millionaires. The year was 1964. America was deep in the midst of cultural change. The Beatles had just landed in the U.S., civil rights marches filled the streets, and in the background, the U.S. Mint was striking billions of pennies to keep up with demand. Billions. And tucked among them, a few coins left the presses carrying an anomaly so rare, so hidden, that decades later they'd shock the coin world by fetching over $1.7 million at auction. Now you might think, how could a single penny, the most common coin in America, reach a value higher than most houses? The answer is buried in the minting process, a tiny mistake that most people never even notice. Here's where the mystery deepens. The 1964 penny was struck at two major locations, the Philadelphia Mint, which used no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which proudly stamped a D on its coins. Millions flowed out of both facilities, indistinguishable from one another in everyday life. But every so often, a Philadelphia penny, with no mint mark at all, carried a strike so unusual, a die variation so subtle, that it set off alarm bells in the numismatic community years later. Collectors who stumbled across these coins were stunned. At first, some thought it was a simple misprint, just another worn penny. But under magnification, the details told a different story. These weren't damaged coins. They were survivors of a minting mistake so rare, only a handful exist. And when the first example hit the auction block, bidding erupted into chaos. Dealers were rushing to outbid each other, phones were ringing off the hook, and in the end, a single 1964 no-mint mark penny soared past $1 million. The final hammer price? Over $1.7 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories began to spread of people digging through jars, shoeboxes, and forgotten drawers, searching desperately for that exact year. Pawn shops saw a surge in customers carrying pocket change. One man reportedly walked into a coin dealer's office with just a handful of pennies from his childhood savings, and walked out a millionaire. And here's the chilling part. Most people who've held this coin had no idea what they were looking at. It passed through gas stations, grocery stores, and soda machines, a treasure worth more than gold slipping through ordinary hands. The difference between throwing it away and selling it for life-changing money came down to one detail. A tiny, often overlooked clue. This is the moment every collector leans forward. First, it has to be a 1964 penny with no mint mark. That means no D under the date. But that's just the beginning. The real key lies in the sharpness of the strike and the anomalies in the lettering. Experts point out that certain varieties of the 1964 penny show doubling on the word liberty, or in the date itself. A subtle doubling, like a faint shadow behind the numbers. Most people miss it completely. But if you spot it, you may be staring at a fortune. That's where dreams are made or broken. A beat-up penny with scratches might bring a few $100s. But a flawless, uncirculated version, bright, crisp, and untouched, has the power to break records. That's how a simple coin, worth 1 cent on paper, became a $1.7 million miracle in the real world. Think about that for a second. 1 cent turning into $1.7 million. That's not just pocket change, it's life change. It's the kind of discovery that makes collectors lose sleep, the kind of story you'll tell your grandchildren, the kind of moment that transforms an ordinary person into the hero of a once-in-a-lifetime treasure hunt. And here's the real question. Could one be sitting in your home right now? Hidden in a jar, tucked in an old wallet, lying forgotten in a desk drawer? That possibility is why so many collectors never stop searching. Because the next record-breaking penny hasn't been found yet. So before you brush off that old change lying around, take a closer look. That dull brown penny might be the rarest one you'll ever see. And if it's a 1964 with no mint mark, with that subtle doubling and perfect condition, you may be holding a coin worth more than most people's life savings. Remember, treasures don't always look like treasure. Sometimes, they look like the smallest coin in your pocket. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a penny in your hand that looks like every other coin you've ever spent. Smooth copper finish. Lincoln's familiar profile staring back at you. And that small D mark just below the date. Ordinary, right? Wrong. Because one of these pennies was never meant to exist the way it does. And collectors are willing to pay up to $1.8 million to own it. What makes a 2018 D penny so different from the billions that were struck? The answer lies in a hidden mistake, a minting error so rare, most people walk right past it without even noticing. And yet, this tiny flaw is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin that could buy you a house. The story begins at the Denver Mint, where billions of coins pour through machines at breathtaking speed. Flawless precision is expected, but every once in a while, perfection slips. A misaligned die. A doubled strike. A missing detail. And in the chaos of mass production, a handful of coins are born with errors so unique they become treasures. That's exactly what happened with this 2018 D penny. One of these coins found its way into circulation. It traveled from store to store, pocket to pocket, with no one realizing what it really was. Until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual. A doubling in the design. An odd shift in the letters. A surface that didn't quite match the others. And that discovery changed everything. But here's where it gets dramatic. When this penny finally hit the auction block, dealers didn't just show up, they fought for it. Bids climbed higher, jaws dropped, and by the end of the night, this single Lincoln penny sold for nearly $1.8 million. A 1 cent coin, transformed into a life-changing payday. Experts believe more of these rare 2018 D pennies are still out there, sitting in piggy banks, stuck in change jars, lying forgotten in dresser drawers. Which means you, yes, you, could be holding one right now without even knowing it. This is where collectors slip up. The coin you want is a 2018 penny with the D mint mark. Look closely at the lettering, especially the words, Liberty and In God We Trust. Some examples show doubling, where the letters look shadowed or slightly overlapped. Others reveal striking errors, where Lincoln's profile seems distorted or the mint mark itself looks misplaced. These tiny details are the key that separates an ordinary coin from a $1 million masterpiece. Collectors were stunned when the first ones surfaced. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on them. And yet, most people ignore pennies altogether, letting potential fortunes slip right through their fingers. That's why this story is so powerful, because a simple coin, something most of us don't even bother to bend down to pick up, can change an entire life. So the next time you see a 2018 penny with that little D mark, don't shrug it off. Don't toss it into a jar. Examine it carefully. Because if you spot that rare error, you might be looking at one of the most valuable pennies ever created. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. And yours could be next. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.